Jack, a young farmhand, must save Princess Isabelle from the giants, after one of the magic beans that a monk gives him, in exchange of his horse. It sprouts a giant beanstalk into the realm of the giants. Let's check out how the Jack saves Princess from man-eating giants, with the quick storyline. A child named Jack comes on the scene as the movie starts. His father was farmer. Jack used to hear the stories specially about giants and kings. He was inspired by a king's story. It is the story of that time, when a king used to rule over a country. In that king's Rygon, some pastors prepared the beans which were not ordinary, those were the magical beans. The purpose behind the making of these seeds was to be in confrontation of God, going into heaven. They sowed those seeds, which grew into a tall tree. That giant tree was skyrocketing, and pastors were thinking, this is the way leading to heaven. Going up the tree, they knew that there is one other world between earth and heaven. It is a perilous place, where the giants live, who are much taller than human beings. Those giants quickly understood as they are human beings, finding the track to earth, the giants come down on it. They ruined everything, coming on earth, even though they started to eat the human beings. Witnessing this destruction, King's knights ended the one of the giants. Afterwards, pastors practiced sorcery on its heart, pulling it out, and they created a magical crown with that heart. The most shocking thing is this: when King went before the giants wearing that crown, then those giants knelt down before the king, and they accepted him their king because of the possession of that crown. Then King commanded the giants to return to their own state. Then King made that tree cut down, after the departure of all those giants, and King saved the seeds of that tree forever, and those seeds and crown were buried in the coffin, with that king, at his death. And this story was also favorite of Princess along with Jack. 10 years later, Jack is shown who had grown up now, and he is going to a city for his horse's sale. Reaching in that city, he observes that the same king's play is being performed, whose stories were told to him in his childhood. And he also enters to watch the play. There is also a girl who was actually the princess. Being disguised, she is unrecognizable by anyone as she is princess. Then some people begin to tease Princess. Jack comes ahead to defend the princess, and a boy lands a punch on his face. All bend themselves as Jack threatens them. Jack thinks they had become fearful, but when he looks back, it is the warriors who have come to take the princess, and it was the cause of their kneeling down, and Princess goes with them. Then Roderick appears, with whom Princess's father was willing to marry his daughter, but he was not according to liking of Princess, and she was not willing to marry him. Roderick notices his study room, where everything is shattered. He detects what is wrong here, and he finds a crown in a plant pot, and it was the crown that had been made of giant's heart many years ago. But one thing was also missing from the book. Roderick commands his courtiers to block the entire city and search out that pastor from anywhere. A pastor comes to Jack when he is in the city for the selling of his horse. Pastor says, "I want to buy your horse." Jack says, "There should be amount for it." And pastor had no penny. Pastor gives some beans to Jack and reveals something about trader. He says, "You will get your payment after giving these beans to him." Jack says, "Who awards amount in the place of beans?" Pastor replies, "These are not ordinary beans but magical, being mighty, they can bring a change in the whole world. They are also rare, so never lose it at any cost. Above all, never dip it in the water." And pastor leaves, buying Jack's horse. Going ahead, pastor is caught. Jack's uncle gets furious on Jack. As he returns to the house, he says, "What is this? You bring beans in place of the horse that pastor has befooled you." And he uncle drops those beans down in fury. Jack begins to gather those beans on the ground, but one of them is dropped down from the wooden hole. It remains unnoticed by Jack, and it was also raining outside. Princess was passing through that place, because she was not ready to marry Roderick, so she had sneaked out from her house. Princess takes a shelter to avoid rain in the Jack's wooden house. Jack knows that she is princess, so both begin conversing with each other. Suddenly, the rainwater penetrates in that bean passing through that wooden hole, which was on the ground. Pastor had said that it should not be touched by water. Dipping in the water, that bean begins to grow there. The roots of that beanstalk were under the house, so it takes the house upward. While growing, Princess was entrapped there. princess is gone upside with growing tree, in spite of Jack's efforts. Next morning, Princess Father King arrives. He notices a tall tree which is skyrocketing. Its ending is not perceivable. Jack reveals the whole story. King orders his warrior knight and says, "Go and save my daughter." Roderick says, "I will also go to save my future wife because I love her." Jack was also wanted to go with them, so he accompanied them. While climbing up the tree to the sky, Roderick deliberately cuts the rope. Due to this, a few knights are fallen down and are dead. He did this because he wanted to prove his bravery in front of the king alone. They reach their planned place, which was between heaven and earth. Roderick says to Jack reaching there, "I know that you have that magical beans. Give it to me." Roderick seizes those beans, while threatening Jack with knife. But Jack keeps a bean in his possession. Each group consisting 3 members begin to search for the princess, going separately. There was a threat of life everywhere. A giant appears before Jack's group. The giant leaves while capturing both the companions of Jack. Then Jack goes after it, because he wanted to search out the princess in any way. He was aware that princess will be hidden where this giant is going. Then Roderick is shown with his companions. Roderick pushes one of them down because he was not loyal to him. Then a giant appears in front of them, and the giant kills Roderick's companion before him. Now it is about to kill Roderick, but Roderick brings out the magical crown. It was the same crown made of giant's heart. 1,000 years ago, King had made it, which also had magic. It is obvious that giants will obey that person who possesses this crown. So wearing that crown, Roderick reaches a place where the crowd of giants was present. There was also Princess, with their one of the companions, who had been brought here after being captured by a giant. All giants kneel down themselves before him. Roderick also orders the leader of giants to bend itself before him. Roderick holds the throne, keeping his foot on the leader giant. Roderick says, "I am your king now. We will go on earth and enslave everyone." A giant brings Princess and Jack's companion into a kitchen with it. Jack reaches there as the giant was nearly to eat that fighter. Taking out a big knife, Jack attacks it before giant kills him. And that knife is stabbed into that giant. He passes to death at the spot. In this way, Jack rescues that fighter. Then 3 of them leave that place. They reach a place where they could move to earth through a tree, but there is a big sleeping giant, and they could not escape in its presence. So Jack and fighter arrange a wasp hive, and they free those wasps in its face armor after taking it off. Consequently, that giant awakens and begins to fuss. Losing its stability, that giant falls on the earth. King notices it and alerts that the giants are wanting to come down now. He orders his knights to cut down this tree, because those giants will demolish everything if they come on earth, and no one will be able to stop this destruction. That fighter says to Princess and Jack, "Go on earth while I stay here, because I want to stop Roderick at any cost. He will bring disaster everywhere, coming on earth." That fighter stays there, and Princess and Jack start to descend through beanstalk. King allows to cut the tree down unwillingly, because he knew that tree is a threat for the whole world, and it may be the cause of the disaster. Contrarily, Roderick is gearing up to come on earth with the giants. The fighter was also hidden there. That fighter attacks Roderick before the giants begin to descend, and he kills him. And the crown is fallen there from Roderick's head. It is shown on earth that knights had cut down that tree, and that tree begins falling steadily. That fighter is also falling down with that tree. Further, Princess and Jack also about to fall with the tree. But all 3 of them survives, and leader of giants gets that crown, and he puts it on its fingers, and all giants accept him as their king. But they could not go to earth because of the cutting down of the tree. They find a little pouch there which had the same magical beans. The king giant throws those beans into the water, and the giant trees begin to grow there. Those giants direct those trees towards earth and set about to proceed. King gets his daughter and feels excitement and also gratifying Jack. But he was unaware that Jack and Princess have started to like each other. Being a layman, Jack leaves from there, saying valediction to Princess. While leading to his house, Jack notices that those trees are again making their way to earth. He understands that it has been occurred due to those beans snatched by Roderick. Now those giants want to come on earth. Riding on horse, He moves to reveal to King that there is a threat of life for everyone. Jack approaches to Princess and the King. He informs, giants have come. Meantime, giants had surrounded that place. They had started to prevail the disaster. King and Jack galloped to the palace in order to save their lives, because they could save them reaching there, otherwise they might become the victim of giants. They all come to the palace before any harm of giants, but Jack is left behind. The knight orders to withdraw the wooden passage, but Jack comes up exactly before going upward. Giant's leader grabs that passage. That knight orders to shoot the arrows continuously, and they carry it out. And the leader of giants falls into the water. There was burning fire, so it could not come up from that place. So he begins to search another way, going into the water. The door was being shut, but giants were pulling the door towards them with the help of ropes. While King's knights are pulling door towards them, those giants throw burning trees into the palace. A giant throws it at the palace wall while targeting it, and the palace's wall is smashed. Seeing it, King is disappointed that it is difficult to stop them. King asks Princess to go into a room. There is a secret way. It will lead you to a place where you will find a fire torch. You may light that fire torch so people may be alerted that we are in trouble. Jack and Princess leave to their assigned task. As they move to the fire torch in the palace, suddenly earth begins to burst, because that leader of the giants was coming out while tearing up the ground. Coming out, he attacks and catches both of them. Jack takes out that last magical bean when Giant is about to eat him. Jack throws it into its stomach. Giant feels weird as bean goes into its body and he leaves both of them. And those trees begin to grow in its stomach. As a result, its body is split apart, and its hand with that magical crown falls near Jack. On the opposite, all giants had entered the palace, and King and all knights were standing in front of them. Death is in front of them as demons. Immediately, all giants kneel down, and the king become thoughtful as what happened. Turning back, they notice Jack, who was stood holding that crown, and he places that crown on his head. And he orders all giants, go back to your state. All trees are cut down as all giants leave. Afterwards, Jack and Princess get married. They also had 2 kids who are being told the giant stories by Jack, as he had been hearing since his childhood. The kids ask, "Where is that crown?" Jack tells, "That crown is still secure and it has been made marvelous." Glimpses of the future are shown at the end of the story. That crown been placed to show off. People come to have its look from remote areas, and its truth is still unrevealed. The movie completes with this scene. I hope that you liked the video. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.